Welcome back, software engineers. So we've taken a look and done a lot of communication, trying to figure out what do we need. We've actually gone through and started the design phase, such as building out our use cases and figuring out what is it that our users are going to need for a complete project. However, building out the complete project could take a long time, and that's going to take money. It's either going to take time on a solo entrepreneur's where they're going to not be able to work on another job or maybe do some other side project. Or if we're building as part of a business, we're going to pay salaries for something we don't know if it's going to work. And this is where an MVP comes into play, a minimally viable project. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're going to take all those use cases that we developed and we're going to narrow it down and say, hey, what has to be in our very first version? What has to be there in order for us to work? Then we can release it into the wild and let people start using it and get feedback from them. What do you really need? You'll find that often what we think is different than what other users use. So let's take a quick look at how we're going to take this and strip out all the things we don't need. So I have an example over here of my use cases. I like to go in and put my use cases, give them little titles, and that's what you're seeing here. And then I have to say, okay, is this a version 1 or a MVP level? Or does it need to go in version 2? So I'm going to say, you know what? You have to be able to create an account. That's not an option. You have to be able to do this in order to do anything else. So we're going to put that down as version 1. Version 1 is our MVP. Now, do we need to upload our data sheet? This is, in our case, a list of all the employees who are going to be reviewing one another. And this comes into where we talk about what is actually required for an MVP. Some people think that you have to write all your code out in a regular coding language like Java or C# or something like that. But in reality, that's not the case. In reality, we may take a look at something like this and upload a data sheet saying, hey, you know what? I can do this manually by hand. I don't have to put this in, so it's an automated process. So I'm going to put this in as version number 2, as you see here. Report generator, you know what? Doing automatic reports is great, but I can do some manual reports. I know how to use Excel, and it's going to take more time to do, but I want to make sure this is actually going to be successful. So I'm not going to waste time on it if I can't. So I'm going to even put this down as version 3. Now, linking users to other users to generate those reports, that's pretty important. But that's going to come more from when I do the upload automatically. So that's going to go in version 2. Creating a new survey, something outside of our basic template, being able to customize it, we're going to call that a version 3 as well. Now, being able to list all the employees that someone wants to review or needs to review, that's an important thing. So that's an MVP, as well as just showing the ones they've already done so they know not to go back and redo them. Obviously, we have to fill out the employee survey and be able to fill out a separate survey for the manager. It's going to be a little bit different. That's pretty important too. Now, using AI to generate reports, that's a pretty cool feature, and we definitely want to have that. But we might say, you know what, this is going to be a later feature. Like I said, I can generate the basic reports early on. I'm thinking if the report generator is version 3, maybe this needs to be a version 4, and we go on. You might think, well, wait a second, you're already planning out 4 versions in advance? You bet. Now, there's 2 things I want to make notice of. First off, we're going to be looking at a continuous development cycle. So this is not like you find some software which is, I developed this piece and then you got to wait a year, 18 months, 24 months even. No. Continuous development, we're going to be looking at rolling out new features every month or 2. In fact, our MVP goal is to roll it out within 30 to 60 days. That's it. Now remember, it's minimally viable, so it's not complete. That gives us a reason to have version 2, version 3, version 4. And as we build traction, We keep working, listening to our customers and finding out what other things do they need. We don't want to put stuff in there that they don't need, which is also a good reason for having an MVP. We can't overload it with junk that's not necessary. As you heard, with this MVP, some of the things are going to be done by hand. And you can do this as an automated task. You could do this with having people trained to do it. And maybe you lose money every deal, but it's just testing out the idea. And so you're really not losing that much money. It's a test to see, hey, is this what's wanted? So when we look at things like this, we're looking to find out what is the minimally viable product that we need? How do we go from there? And taking a strong look at all these things, it would have been easy to say, you know what, all these things have to be version 1, but no. Find out the things that only have to be. I was working on a project with a good friend of mine, and we were dealing with something like this. And he came up with a way. You must come up with 3 different reasons to keep every item on this list. If we couldn't come up with 3 reasons, then we cut it. And whether it's 1 reason, 3 reasons, 10 reasons, whatever works for you, do it. Make it a challenge to stay in the MVP, because remember, you want to get this in front of your end users, your customers, as quickly as possible, 30 to 60 days. That's our goal. Now, as you're doing this, you might say, ooh, we missed a step. That happens. Throw it on the list, determine what version it needs to be in there. That's a good option as well. In the meantime, I hope you found that this was helpful for you. Go through your own use cases, find out what you need, eliminate what's not necessary, keep what is, and start work on the MVP. We've got another video coming up next to show you our next step once we've got this list so that we can start to make some good decisions. Hope you find it helpful. Stay tuned for more videos because they're coming up in this series.